budget because we are nearing elections with announcements being made, but with no expectation in the horizon. By-elections for the Ponda Assembly seat will come in with multiple elections across Goa, and thereafter we'll soon have assembly elections. At all times, code of conduct will be announced, and each time, government will justify non-implementation due to code of conduct. The budget is not a roadmap for Goa's future, it's a document of political announcement and financial illusions. After carefully examining the numbers, the economic survey and the previous budgets, I must say that this budget is not a roadmap to Goa's future. It's a document of political announcements and financial illusions with the purpose of fooling Goans ahead of the election. The government claims strong economic growth. In 2023 to 2022-23, the Chief Minister in his budget speech promised a growth rate of 7.07% at current prices. In the Economic Survey Report of 23-24, the growth rate of financial year 2022-23 was estimated 11.16%, which is 93672 crores. In the Economic Survey Report of 2024-25, the growth rate of financial year 2022-23 was estimated 15.32%, which is 93,672 crores. The actual growth rate for financial year 22-23 was 4.79%, which is 85,113 crores. At constant prices, there was an actually negative growth, that is minus 4.70%. Goa deserves to know how the government will get 15.77 growth, especially when the capital expenditure drawn down from 8207 crores last year to 8114 crores this year. If this is the expected growth, why has the state budget increased only by about 5%, while revenue growth is estimated around 8.5%? This mismatch raises questions about whether the government is fully leveraging economic growth through public spending. Rising debt burden. We have already spoken about this, but this is important because Goa's public debt is increasing with projections of over rupees 30,000 crores by 2026. Growing debt could affect long-term financial stability if revenue growth does not keep pace. More borrowing means future governments may need to cut spending or raise tax to repay debt. Debt ratio appears lower due to optimistic growth projections. The government frequently highlights that the debt to GHRDC ratio is around 21 to 22%. However, this ratio depends heavily on projected economic growth. The Fiscal Responsibility and the Budget Management Review Committee recommended the debt to GDP for states to be maximum 20%. The ratio in 2023-24 was estimated 23.42 based on estimated GDP. Now that we know that actual GDP in 2023, the ratio is 25.77%. The actual debt to GDP ratio may be more than 30% when the public debt is added to the debt figures. If economic growth does not match the optimistic projection, the debt ratio could rise significantly, revealing a more serious fiscal situation. Revenue growth versus rising debt. Over the past 20 years, which is 2005 to 2025, the government revenue has increased roughly from rupees 2,500 crores to rupees 20,000 crores, an increase of around 7.5 to 8 times. In contrast, accumulated public debt has risen from rupees 4,700 crores to over rupees 40,000 crores, representing nearly a tenfold increase. In the CAG report of number 3 of 2025, presented last year, it shows an arrears of revenue as of 31st March 2024, amount of rupees 5223.81 crores, of which 2,190.47 crores, 42%, was outstanding for more than 3 years. I'll just read that page. It says the arrears of revenue as of 31st March 2024 amounted to rupees 5,223.31 crores, of which rupees 2,190.47 crores, 42%, was outstanding for more than 3 years. Further, rupees 126.72 crores out of rupees 5,223.81 crores was under legal adjudication, leaving arrears of rupees 5,097 crores, which are yet to be recovered. And they've explained this in the table. Now they say this. The revenue arrears of rupees 5,097 crores are accounted for 39% of the state's own resources, which is rupees 12,945 crores during the year. During the exit conference on 7th March 25, The finance department stated that efforts are being made to collect the revenue of all this. The question now arises is, what steps has the government taken to recover this money? Also, the CAG has flagged one more issue, very important, at the bottom of it. In the footnote, they have said, in addition to the above, Messrs. Swastik Cruises have to pay the rent of rupees 48,87,197 towards the rent of Betin Jetty for the period of June 2014 to December 2023. Honorable Speaker, if anybody doesn't pay any amount, maybe for a year or two, they immediately rush to terminate. But here, almost for 10 years, Swastik Cruises has been enjoying this facility, not paying the money and continuing to operate. Something seems to be really going badly wrong. Higher revenue spending versus lower capital spending. The government increased revenue expenditure, salaries, subsidies and administration. But capital expenditure, which is infrastructure investment, has either stagnated or declined. In fact, when we go with our files, JDA says it has no capital expenditure fund which is available. Capital spending which required for building roads and infrastructure which allows the economy to grow so that we can have more investment, but no spending will bring less investment and can slow down long-term development. False claims of surplus in the budget. Budgetary provisions being made but not utilizing the amount provided in the budget. Even the CAG report, I'll just read this at page 132. Speaks what we say, that money, unnecessary supplementary provisions of amounts are being made when it's not being spent in the supplementary budget. This is how it shows in appendix 3.1 at page 132. Numbers may include borrowings or accounting adjustments. If surplus figures rely on loans or adjustments, the financial position will not be as strong as it appears. Misleading claims in action taken report on announcements, assurances made in the budget or 2025-2026. Honorable Speaker, in that action taken report, I pointed out last, as soon as it was presented, that the action taken report had false projections. In serial number 105 of this action taken report on announcements, assurances made in budget speech 2025-2026, 105 speaks of improvement and hot mixing of road from Karona Junction to Pondolen, Calvin Bridge Approach Road in VP Aldona constituency. And action taken is given, assurance has been fulfilled. My respectful submission is that this is completely false. It has not even been done, the tender has not even been issued, no work order has been issued, tender is issued but no work order has been issued, and is waiting there for issuance of the work order. The work has not started. I don't know how this assurance can be fulfilled. Similarly, improvement and hot mixing of road from Karona Junction, 106, hot mixing of main road from Bastora to Satpurush Temple to Gava Junction at Aldona constituency. Again, this is saying assurance has been fulfilled. This again is completely false because the work order itself has not been issued. So I don't know how you can make a statement here and have false projections. If this kind of projections are being made to say that this kind of works are already fulfilled, you are looking at the budget for other figures and then this is not available. Now there is one more thing which is GHRDC. The Honorable Chief Minister made a statement that GHRDC will focus on training and upskilling the youth of the state and coordinating with the industries, establishments and companies for job placement. My respectful question is this the job of GHRDC? Don't we have skill development? Don't we have ITIs? Don't we have other institutes which can provide these kind of facilities for training? GHRDC does not even have classrooms to have training for these children. In respect of GHRDC, it is claimed that persons employed for 10 years or more will be regularized. There is an assurance being made, but I respectfully say that this will never happen. Last year, and I will explain why, and this is what is happening. GHRDC, according to me, has become just a labor contractor. It brings people into the department. It says it is on empanelment basis, and then starts putting people in various departments. You may be put there for 6 months in one department, you may be put for 6 months in another department. So how do you get a continuity? If you don't have a continuity in one department, you cannot claim that I've been there for 3 years, 6 years, or even 10 years. So this is what is happening. He's becoming a labor contractor. An announcement was made by the Chief Minister that salaries to the employees would be increased, that 3,000 will be added to rupees 5,000. Last year's statement was made, but this is an empty promise like the 3 gas cylinders. Nothing has happened. Again, this promise is being made in this year's budget, 2026-27, but this is going to be an empty promise. Now, there is one more problem, Honorable Speaker. When people are being engaged by the GHRDC, they are raising bills for a security guard of showing 31,257 per security guard and one reliever, which comes to rupees 51,886.22. To this, CGST and SGST is added. So the total bill to the department goes as 61,226 for one security guard and one reliever. And the GST component is rupees 9,339.60. But when the GST is being already paid, I don't understand why salaries are still being deducted, and the security guard never gets the 31,257. He ends up getting 22,236 today. So I don't know why, whether GHRDC is eating up money or keeping away money from these people who are actually doing work, who should have got the money. And I believe that GHRDC should stop now all these empanelments, and the government should focus on giving jobs directly to the people in the departments without having to go through this. Because the moment you go through a corporation and you provide service, there is a service tax component which starts coming in. The promise of regularizing staff with temporary status. My respectful submission that this is a fraud played upon by the government on all these people who have been working on daily wages or on contract basis. Last year, an announcement was made that they would regularize people with 7 years of service, and a notification to that extent was brought out. Honorable Speaker, I will present that notification on the floor of the House. This was in pursuant to the demand which all of us made that we should regularize people who have got at least 10 years. So government said we'll give them for 7 years. One to the Honorable Speaker, please. Please. Now this is called a daily wages grant of temporary status scheme of Government of Goa. This looked to be that government was really fulfilling the wishes and the demands of the people. But Honorable Speaker, may kindly look at 2.5. Do you get that? Such daily wages who acquire temporary status shall, not however, be brought onto the permanent establishment unless they're selected to regular selection process for Group C posts. This is completely wrong. Now please turn over to the third page. That is another number 5. Despite conferment of temporary status, the service of daily wager may be dispensed with by giving a notice of 1 month in writing. A daily wager with temporary status may also quit service by giving a written notice of 1 month. And please look at 7. An undertaking shall be taken from all the eligible employees that they shall seek no additional benefits from the government once covered under the scheme and are willing to avail benefits as specified in the scheme. This is completely a dishonest approach, Honorable Speaker, because what does the Supreme Court say on this? I'll just read a few. Honorable Speaker, latest judgment of the Supreme Court of 2025. Please see para 1. When public institutions depend day after day on the same hands to perform permanent tasks, this is a judgment of Dharam Singh and others versus State of UP, 2025 live law, SC 818. So para 1, when public institutions depend day after day on the same hands to perform permanent tasks, equity demands that those tasks are placed on sanctioned posts and those workers are treated with fairness and dignity. The controversy before us is not about rewarding irregular points, it's about the years of ad hoc engagement defended by shifting excuses and pleas of financial state can be used to deny the rights of those who have kept public institutions running. We resolve it by insisting that public employment should be organized with fairness, reasoned decision-making, and respect for the dignity of work. Please look at paragraph 4. It tells the background. I won't read everything, but please read 4.7 down. By the judgment dated, did you get that, 4.7? The learned single judge of the High Court dismissed the petition, holding that no rules for regularization in the Commission had been shown, that even assuming the 1998 regularization rule applied, there were no vacancies for the appellants. Moreover, the single judge held the regulation was impermissible in view of the law declared in Uma Devi and allied precedents. It was also observed that the petitioners had not specifically essayed the subsequent decision, so and so. The appellants preferred special leave before the division bench, affirmed the dismissal. Now please look para 6. The question before us whether the High Court erred in failing to adjudicate appellant's principal challenge. Para 7. Having heard the learned counsel of parties, we are unable to endorse the approach adopted by the High Court. Para 8. The state's refusal of 11-11-99 cites financial constraints, and the subsequent decision taken after High Court decision reconsider adverse to financial crisis and a ban on creation of courts. Neither decision engages with relevant considerations placed on record, namely the Commission's 1991 resolution repeated proposal acknowledged administrative exigencies of recruiting body, handling large cycles, the continuous deployment of these very hands for years, and the existence of the attendant work that is primarily perennial rather than sporadic. While creation of posts is primary and executive function, the refusal to sanction posts cannot be immune from judicial scrutiny for arbitrariness. We believe that a non-speaking rejection on a generic plea of financial constraints, ignoring functional necessity and the employer's own long-standing reliance on daily wages to discharge regular duties does not meet the standard of reason. Moreover, it's undisputed the nature of work performed by the appellants, that is sorting and scrutiny application, dispatch of an office support, driving, has been continuous and integral to Commission's function since the engagement between 1989 and 92. Commission itself moved for sanction of 14 posts and furnished a list of 14 daily wages, including the appellants. That consistent internal demand coupled with uninterrupted utilization of appellant labor on regular office hours, 45 seconds, the duties are perennial. I'll just take another 10 minutes, I'll finish. So, please look at this. Now, go to paragraph 17. So the High Court rejected that first there were no sanction posts, that the Supreme Court rejected that there were no sanction posts, that financial burden. Now look at para 17. This is very important for the state government to think this. Before concluding, we think it necessary to recall that the state, hereinafter referring to both the union and the state government, is not a mere market participant, but a constitutional employer. It cannot balance budgets on the backs of those who perform the most basic and recurring public functions. Where work recurs day after day and year after year, the establishment must reflect that reality in its sanctions strength and engagement practices. The long-term extraction of regular labor under temporary labels corrodes confidence in public administration, offends the promise of equal protection. Financial stringency certainly has a place in public policy, but not a talisman that overrides fairness and the duty to organize work on lawful lines. Moreover, it must be noted that ad hocism thrives where administration is opaque. And the State Department must produce this. And then the Supreme Court finally gives it and gives a direction that they must do this. This was also considered by the Supreme Court in another judgment. Just pass this. Similar plea was taken. Please look at paragraph 25. The Honourable Speaker again. It's a disconcerting reality that temporary employees, particularly in the government institutions, often faced multifaceted forms of exploitation. While the foundational purpose of temporary contracts may have been to address short-term or seasonal needs, they have increasingly become a mechanism to evade long-term obligations owed to employees. And then the titles are there: misuse of temporary labels, arbitrary termination, lack of career progressions, use of outsourcing as a shield, denial of basic and benefits. Para 26, while Uma Devi sought to curtail, and then they said you can still do it in view of Uma Devi. So, para 27, last paragraph which I will read. In light of these considerations, in our opinion, it is imperative for the government department to lead by example in providing fair and stable employment, engaging workers on a temporary basis for extended periods, especially when their roles are integral to the organization functioning, not only contravenes international labor standards, but also exposes the organization legal challenge, undermines employee morale. By ensuring fair employment practice, government institutions can reduce the burden of unnecessary litigation, promote job security, and uphold the principle of justice and fairness they are meant to embody. This approach aligns with the international standards and sets a positive precedent for private sector to follow, thereby contributing to overall betterment of labor practice in the country. So this was what was it, and the most now January judgment of the Supreme Court finally concludes this. I'll just read just 2 sentences here. This is Bolanath versus State of Jharkhand, 2026 live law, Supreme Court, 95. Just a head note on the top. The Supreme Court set aside, does Honorable Speaker get that? Set aside Jharkhand High Court's refusal to regularize contract employees who had served for over a decade in sanctioned posts, held the state as a model employer cannot exploit the unequal bargaining power of employees by keeping them in perpetual contractual roles to evade regular employment operations. Abruptly discontinuing long service employees based on contract and without speaking it was manifestly arbitrary. So, Honorable Speaker, which I want to point out is that when you are giving these type of assurances, I want to make them regular, I want to give temporary. You can't put those clauses by saying that this will still be contract, you will not have finality, and then you will be sent home. So this is what I wanted to point out, that you have to make these provisions in the budget so that you can have these things down. As far as the panchayats are concerned, Honorable Speaker, the CAG report noted that for 2023-24, Finance Commission recommended basic grant of 58 crores and 30 crores to Panchayat Raj institutions and urban local bodies. But the state government did not receive any grants for the year 2023-24 for PRIs and ULBs. It further states that similar grants pertaining to health and family welfare of rupees 32.2 crores recommended by 15 Finance Commission for year 2023-24 were not released. What did the state government do to recover this? This is all money which will come into the account. This default on the part of the state government seems chronic because since 2022-23, the central government, just 5 minutes more, finish. Just 5 minutes more. The central government withheld approximately 168 crores in the 15th Finance Commission to village panchayat for failure to submit utilization certificates. 0 grants were released for 2023-24. 2024-25 and for 25-26, where allocation was made for panchayats for rupees 58 crores, 62 crores and 61 crores respectively. Garbage grants have been stopped for 24-25, passing the cash grants to local bodies. It is my apprehension, Honorable Speaker, that by stopping these garbage grants, they will then start putting in operators to collect garbage and then stop the local economy. We have a local garbage collector at each panchayat. We have locals who are being engaged, but they will bring in people who will be brought as so-called experts, who will bring all people from outside the state, and they will start doing the collection of garbage, which is another racket which will go on. 16 Finance Commission has slashed the panchayat funding by more than 50% for 5-year period ending 2030-2031 against allocation of rupees 368 crores. For rural bodies, the 16th Finance Commission has earmarked only rupees 174 crores for the next five-year cycle, less than 50%. This fund squeezing is independent of the 168 crores allotted to Goa under the 15th Finance Commission, which has remained pending since 2022-2023. The State Finance Commission, which was required to be set up under the Constitution, the last State Commission gave its report, and its report has still not been placed before the floor of the House. This is required by the Constitution to place that report on the floor of the House. Only cabinet decision was placed, but not that report. Please understand this. And this is required under Article 243I, so which has not been placed, and that is CAG itself noted this. The event management. This is an event management government because every year, every month we are having an event. That event we had, it's like Nero is fiddling while Rome is burning. This is the way I think the government is running. We suddenly had money being spent of 57 crores on a Formula 4 racing track in Mopa, but there is no money for infrastructure, repairs of roads and for development which is required, building repairs of schools, no money. There is also another amount which was spent for some stadium in Verna. And funnily, Honorable Speaker, that sports event was not through the sports department. Money was not spent. It was spent by ESG, Entertainment Society of Goa, to the information department. That other one also in Verna, sports department was not consulted in it. It's a sporting event, and naturally it will have to be through the sports department. Money comes from a different route. I don't understand how and why. Did the government make a study whether money is required, whether we'll be able to spend this much money? Do we have the budgetary provision? Will we be able to recover this? Or how will we recover it? Because you can't dole it out to give it to your friends after that. Education, no proper funds for implementation of NEP. Even today, implementation of NEP is haphazard. Funds for maintenance of infrastructure for schools, because NEP requires schools, classroom, resting rooms, but today our classrooms are the old classrooms, just buildings, nothing more is there.